It's 2, 3, and 4 for me.
Okay, it's 2, 3, and 4 for Hanifa.
For me, the teachers still aren't sure yet.
Okay. Okay, so anyways, if 4 is also coming, we'll be able to do most of it today. Okay, so this is, in the last class we did implantation, gestation, parturition, and lactation, right? The last 4 topics.
Yes, sir.
And I asked you to go back and look at the anatomy of the mammary glands. Did you do that as a homework? Any doubt in mammary glands?
No, sir.
Everyone went, and so have you read the chapter from NCERT, everyone? Did you read it? Hanifa, Atif, and Rifat? Yes or no? No. Okay, so let's start with a quick recap of these 4 things. What are these 4? What does these 4 words mean? Implantation, gestation. So who would like to give me a quick recap in 10 minutes from the last class? Hanifa, can we go with you today?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We did implantation, gestation, lactation, and parturition. Implantation is the implantation of the zygote in the embryo in the uterus.
And at what stage does the embryo implants? I also told you this. You can see the board. Everyone can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you can take the help of the screen, Hanifa, to explain things.
Blastocyst.
Yes. And what is blastocyst?
Is the 16-cell zygote.
After the 16 cell. It's not the 16 cell. 16 cell, 8 to 16 cell is called morula. Remember?
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue. Then, so it implants at blastocyst stage and
then it implants and it implants in the uterus, and then the gestation period starts, which is basically the development of the zygote in the uterus.
okay.
And
What is gestation period? Yes.
This is the period when, like,
Pregnancy itself, right?
yes,
Yes. Then what happens once the implantation is done and pregnancy starts? Then what begins?
the development of the baby and development, and then the parturition happens where we conceive the baby.
Parturition, we have not reached parturition yet. Development of placenta, remember?
Yes.
Yes. And what is a placenta? It is a structural and functional unit between the developing embryo and the mother. Remember? See, remember this diagram that we made? Chorionic villi from the embryo, the cells of the trophoblast, they develop chorionic villi, and the tissues from the endometrium forms placenta with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, perfect. Atif, would you like to tell about the sex determination and functions quickly? Let's go to Atif for the second part. You're there, Atif?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so in sex determination in humans, each haploid set has 23 chromosomes, that is 22 autosomes and 1 allosome. So the the allosome can either be X or Y. So if it is XX, then the offspring will be female, and if it is XY, the offspring will be male. So since males have the Y chromosome, the fathers are the ones which are responsible for the sex of the offspring.
Right.
Yes, sir, that's it.
And then functions of placenta.
Okay, sir. So the functions of placenta. So placenta is an endocrine tissue which secretes 4 hormones, that is HCG, also known as human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, also known as human placental lactogen, progesterone, and estrogen. So HCG and HPL are HCG, HPL, and relaxin are only secreted during pregnancy. So these are chemicals are the ones which are whose presence is checked during the pregnancy tests. And then at the end of the second month, the embryo develops the limbs and digits, and during about the 5th to 6th month, the eyelids open and the eyelashes are formed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Then coming to parturition. Now this is the delivery of the baby, the actual birth of the baby. And what happens here? Rifat, are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Parturition is the expulsion of fetus. It
If you're speaking, you're not audible, Rifat.
No?
Yes, now you're audible. Continue.
is parturition means expulsion of delivery of fetus from fetus, and
And what is fetal ejection reflex?
it it is the reaction.
It is a reflex, right? Can you see it's
Yes.
fetal ejection reflex? So it means that the fetus, after proper development, needs to be ejected out of the female body. So from where does this reflex starts? It's like a signal, right? From where does the signal starts for the delivery?
Pituitary gland. No, it sends signal to pituitary gland.
Yes, it starts from the fetus itself,
Yes.
right? Fetus and placenta together starts the fetal ejection reflex, and this reflex sends signal to the pituitary gland, and then the pituitary starts producing what? Can you explain now? Yes, oxytocin, correct. And then what happens?
And then the baby.
Oxytocin works on the uterus and makes the uterus contract vigorously.
Yes.
And when the uterus contracts vigorously, that leads to the expulsion of the yes. Yeah, correct. And then in the end, we discussed about lactation, which is the production of colostrum in the female breasts, which is colostrum is a thick yellow fluid. It contains all the nutrition, and it also contains antibodies, correct? Then I ask you to go back and look at the structure of mammary glands from your NCERT book. And do you have any doubts? Welcome, Hiba. How are you? Hiba, am I audible to you? I don't know if Hiba can use the microphone. Hiba, if I'm audible to you, you can write in the chat as well. Okay. So this marks the end of this chapter, and in today's class we have to start with the 4th chapter. Even if it's coming, let's discuss that, and then we'll also discuss some questions which are need-based questions from chapter 3. We just start a new notebook.
Sir, can I leave the class and join?
Sorry.
Can I leave the class and join in a minute? I'll just restart the Wi-Fi.
Yes, please do it quickly. Okay, in the meanwhile she is returning, let me start the new notebook. Fourth chapter is reproductive health. What do you understand by the term reproductive health, people? Atif and Hiba.
Like being healthy from a reproductive perspective, like the reproductive organs are like functioning well. There are, like we are emotionally, like emotional, mental, physical health, all are maintained properly in terms of reproductive.
Yes, so you
Something like that.
yes, so you mean to say that it's the overall health, but with respect to the reproductive perspective, right? If I say what is a
Yes, sir.
cardiac health, you will say health from the perspective of the heart. Your heart should be healthy as an organ, right? Or as a system, your cardiovascular system should be healthy. Now, in case of reproductive health, do we mean that our just the reproductive health system should be healthy? So reproductive. Do we mean by reproductive health that just the reproductive system should be healthy, or something else is associated with it? Like you were defining, Atif, so you said overall, right? You used the word physical,
Yes, sir.
behavioral, right? So
Yes, sir.
reproductive health is basically the overall. So let's start with defining what it means. So you're back. Hanifa, can you hear me? Hiba, Hanifa, both of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So reproductive health, we define this. Again, it's the overall well-being of a human in all aspects of reproductive process. So write down the overall well-being of a human in all aspects of reproduction. Write down it includes physical, right? So this is with respect to, this is related to the organs and the organ system. Okay. Mental, behavioral, and social well-being. Now, why physical? Simply because it's a system in our body which has organs associated. So organs has to be physically healthy. If there is any kind of disease or disorder in the organs, whether they are male reproductive organs or the female reproductive organs, it can decline the reproductive health. That is the most simple and easiest to understand. Why have we included mental and behavioral well-being as well? Why this is important for reproduction? The beginning of chapter 3, what did we discuss? The reproductive system includes or is regulated through hormones, right? Atif? Correct?
Yes, sir.
In both males and females, there are hormones which are important for the regulation of reproductive health system, right?
So did you ask me something?
Yes, I am asking that in reproductive system, we discussed that there are many hormones which play a crucial role in its regulation, correct?
Sir, can you wait a minute? I'm having a connection problem, so I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay. So the mental and behavioral aspect is because there are hormones involved. Am I audible clear to others? Hanifa, Hiba, and Rifat? Is
Yes,
my
sir.
voice clear? Okay, thank you. So because hormones are involved, there is also behavioral changes that happen during the reproductive cycle, like we discussed in case of females during menstrual cycle, correct? Remember, yes or no? And then the social component is also important because diseases which are related to reproductive system like sexually transmitted diseases or disorders like infertility also has a very important social component associated. Making sense? This definition is making sense to all of you?
Yes, sir.
So we have already discussed about sex determination in the last chapter. So you remember that if I ask you which parent is responsible for determining the sex of the baby?
Male.
Males, right? So males in humans are responsible. Like they are also not voluntarily responsible, but biologically responsible. Like they also cannot control it, but they are responsible biologically for the sex of the child. But it is a very common myth in society where females are always blamed for a girl child, right? If there's a girl child or a boy child, the responsibility
Yes.
is always yes put on females, that she is not able to give birth to a boy or a girl or vice versa. But biologically we know that it's the male. Now how can we know the determination, but how can we get to know of the sex of an embryo? Can we get to know of the sex of an embryo before it is born? Is there any way?
Yes, sir.
That's how. Any idea?
How? I'm not sure, sir. What I know is there is way to determine. I'm not sure how.
But you know that when the baby is still an embryo, we can do it, right? For that, we need to collect some sample from the baby, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, yes. Now, this process is called amniocentesis. So, the first thing that we are going to study today is amniocentesis. Write down. In amniocentesis, write down in amniocentesis. Cells from the amniotic fluid. You know what is amniotic fluid?
Yes.
Yes. What? So when we are inside the womb, we are present in a fluid filled membrane. We are inside it. That's called amniotic fluid with a membrane, right?
Yes, sir.
So if we just put a syringe or something, we can collect some fluid without harming the baby or without disturbing the baby. We just need to collect some fluid, and in that fluid there will be some loose cells that must have fallen off from the embryo. And if we get a few cells from the embryo, that serves our purpose, that fulfills the purpose, because all we have to look at is the 23rd pair of chromosome, whether it is XX or XY, right?
Yes, sir.
Once we know that, we know whether the embryo is going to be a male or female much before even the sex organs are produced. So we can get to know the sex of the baby like right in the first month before the sex organs have developed. But this technique has started having some major concerns like social issues. So cells from, first let's write down, cells from amniotic fluid is collected. To, to figure out figure out the sex of the embryo. Now, this technique is banned in many countries. So it has a statutory ban, like a legal ban in many countries. Why? To prevent female feticide. What do we mean by female feticide?
If the baby is found to be a female, then the parents will undergo they will consider abortion.
Yes. So in many parts of the world, female child is like parents do not want to raise a female child because of cultural issues and other issues associated with the society. That is where the social health is also important for reproductive health, and because of this, the female embryo is aborted. Okay, and that can only be done if you know the sex of the baby. Now, to prevent this from happening, figuring out the sex of the embryo in the womb is banned. Okay, it's illegal. You cannot do that. But do you think this process, like amniocentesis and checking the chromosome or checking the embryo at the genetic level, is it harmful always? What if we just,
No, sir.
can it be useful also?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, how it can be useful? Any idea?
To detect any deficiencies.
Detect genetic disorders, right? Yeah. So to detect something which we cannot see through ultrasound, like if there is some gross deformity, yes, we can see it through the ultrasound, right? That there is some gross deformity in the developing baby, but we can only see that once the baby starts to develop, and probably by that time it is too late to consider medical termination or abortion, which we call. So to help with that, at the very early stage, we can get to know if there is a genetic disorder in the baby. So this technique of checking the genes or doing a genetic profile of the baby is not harmful. What is harmful is just knowing the sex of the baby from a social point, right? So it is allowed if anyone wants to check if the baby has some genetic disorder like Down syndrome, all the chromosomes, whether they are normal, the genetic makeup is normal. So you can do that. But the report will not contain the sex determination part. So they will not tell you about the sex. That is banned. No laboratory is allowed to do that. Okay, do you understand? Clear, everyone? Now, if okay, we'll come to it later. Let's talk about one more important term, which is called abortion. So someone used, I think Atif used the word abortion, right? What is an abortion, Atif?
The termination of pregnancy.
Yes, it is basically you are ending the pregnancy. The word abort means to end, right? Abort the mission. You must have heard words like that. So abortion of
Yes, sir.
pregnancy is also known as MTP, which is called medical termination of pregnancy. Now, about medical termination of pregnancy, the thing is that it may or may not, like it can also be helpful. So MTP is not always wrong, just like amniocentesis. Sometimes it is necessary to abort pregnancy, right? Under what situations do you think medical termination of pregnancy should be allowed? Anyone? Like
Like maybe when the baby is maybe when the embryo is growing in a circumstance that it could possibly like cause the death of the mother or something like that.
Yes. So one thing is if there is some gross issues with the baby, right? So if the baby has some real serious issues, like we know from the genetic makeup that the baby is going to have some lethal disorder or a disease, and after the birth, the life of the baby will not be very long, then doctors can advise to go for medical termination of pregnancy. Or in other cases, if holding that pregnancy is fatal to the mother. So there are many ways in which it could be fatal to the mother. One of the reason is it's a rare disorder where the mother develops allergy towards her own fetus, towards her own pregnancy. And if that pregnancy continues, then mother's health starts deteriorating over time. You know, and this is rare, not very common. But if this happens, then there is no other way than to abort the pregnancy and first treat the mother for that condition if it is possible before holding up another pregnancy. Is it clear? Now write down the medical termination of pregnancy. The medical termination of pregnancy has many social, ethical, emotional, and religious issues involved with it. So it's not just a medical issue, like if doctors legally, it is very convoluted. It's a complex thing. So it has social issues, ethical issues, of course, legal issues, emotional issues, and religious issues attached to it. So even in countries where it is legalized, like MTP is legalized in countries like India also, but determining the sex is not legalized, right? And MTP is also legalized under many conditions. So write down. MTPs are legalized in cases legal in cases where continuation of pregnancy could be harmful or fatal. You know what do we mean by fatal?
It will result in death.
Yes. Fatal to the mother or the fetus or both. But this is decided by the medical professionals. Now there is one more layer to it. It's not like even in case where it's legalized, you can terminate pregnancy whenever you want. It's not that. So MTPs have a timeline in which they are safe. Okay. So MTPs are considered safe. MTPs are considered safe only during the first trimester, which means how many weeks? Up
12 weeks.
Yes, 3 months or up to 12 weeks. What happens after that? Why is it not safe? What will happen if someone goes for a abortion? Yes, Hanifa, after 3 months.
It would cause a lot of medical issues, and it can also be fatal to the child and
Your voice is not audible to me properly. Can you be a little louder, Hanifa?
it could cause a lot of medical issues.
Is what medical issues it can cause. So suppose there is some reason, there is some medical problem already, but you could not do it in the first trimester. Then what are the issues with the second trimester? We did it in the last class. We discussed what happens to the fetus as it grows from first to the second trimester. It grows, right? It develops, and in the second trimester it also develops all the vital organs, correct? The placenta also strengthens over time, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's more associated with the physiology of the woman, of the mother. And the bigger the fetus is, the difficult it is to abort, because for very early fetus, even just the chemical MTP can work. So chemical termination of pregnancy, where you give female the chemicals which can just cause the endometrium to break down and come out. So it's easy because the fetus is not significant in size. It is small, still small, and it's a mass of cell. And if you can figure out some problem in that time, it's easier to abort it, correct? That also might have some complications, but they will be not long lasting or fatal to the mother. But after 12 weeks, it can also be detrimental to the mother. Okay, so write down second trimester abortions are risky to the mother. Second trimester abortions are risky to the mother. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Atif, you have a question?
No, sir, no question.
Okay. So we both amniocentesis and medical termination of pregnancy is clear. Now there are some questions that are moral based or social issues based questions that can come in the boards. They will not be asked in the entrance mostly, but like how can you prevent female feticide? So for that you can write answers like, so one thing is amniocentesis should be banned, like no one should be allowed to know the sex of the baby before it is born. Second thing is proper counseling should be given, awareness should be provided to the parents. Yes, you understand?
Yes,
There
sir.
should be, yes, so there should be government programs that helps towards building a healthy society, and healthy social reproductive programs, family planning, things like that. And what can the government do to create awareness? Then you can answer like they can uh, invest in advertisements, print media advertisements, audio visual advertisements to spread the message to the masses. The information should be spread. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So all these social issues related questions you can answer if you can just study the NCERT. So please read this chapter. It's a short chapter from NCERT. We'll talk about mostly the biological and the scientific parts of it. I hope you will take care of the social part. Yes, the moral part associated with these issues.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Hanifa, Heba, Rifat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's now talk about, so we understood that how sex can be determined and what is one issue associated with it, which is female feticide and then MTP. But if I ask you, if everyone is reproductively healthy, let's say in the society, everyone's reproductive health is good, then is it a good thing for the society? If everyone is very reproductive, fertile, then what is the problem associated with it? If every person, every couple is fertile and have lots and lots of kids, let's say multiple kids are there for every couple in the society, then is it going to benefit the society?
It will lead to overpopulation.
Yes, and what is the problem with overpopulation?
There are more. If there's the population is very high, then more amount of resources will be required.
Yes,
And
correct.
then,
Yes, continue, Atif. Good.
and then like the resources you already have used faster, and they might get exhausted.
Yes. So first thing is all the non-renewable resources uh, will have a greater burden and they may end up quickly. But also with renewable resources like food can be grown right in cycles. But the point is the demand will always outdo the supply. Correct? If we have lots of mouths to feed and less crops with us, because the land is limited. Yes or no? The fertile land is limited. There is a limit to how much you can produce with respect to not even food, also services and other goods, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Overpopulation is a problem, but there is one thing. Let's try to understand why overpopulation happens, or there is one thing called population blast. What is a population blast?
Sudden increase in population.
Yes, and how can sudden increase in population happen? Population blast. Sudden means how sudden? Whenever we are talking about population, we always have to talk in terms of generation. So if you see that within 1, 2, or 3 generations, the population of any geographical area is just doubling or tripling. That's a cause of concern, correct? Because we may not be able to generate resources that fast. You understand? Everyone understands?
Yes.
uh, uh, Atef, Hanifa, Hiba, and Rifat, just give me one moment, okay? I'll be just back in 1 minute, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, everyone, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Back. So we were talking about population blast. Yes. So the problem is if in any geographical area we see that the population is doubling or more than doubling in just 1 or 2 generations, it's a cause of concern because the resources and everything cannot be accumulated or accommodated for that fast, because one generation is simply like 20, 30, 40 years. Yes. And that is exactly what has happened for very densely populated countries like India and China, if you see. So in last 50 to 80 years, which is how many generations? How many generations can uh, encompass in, let's say, 80 years? 2, 3, not more than that, right? Yes or no? You understand? If on an average, everyone is getting married at 30 and producing kids at 30, so it will take 90 years for 3 generations to come up, right? Yes or no? Simple mathematics. Atif, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So it will just take 80 to 90 years for 3 generations. And in that, if the population of any area is just growing uncontrollably, then it causes a population blast in that region. Okay, and it creates lots and lots of pressure on the existing resources and services. For example, it includes both education, employment, food, security, everything. So write down. And how can we tackle this problem? Is there any way? We cannot just ask people to not produce kids, but what can we do? To control it. Now this is problems and strategies part. So what will anyone do to prevent or to control population blast? Okay, let's first write down population blast. Uncontrollable or a rapid growth in population. Rapid growth in population of a region within a few generations. So if we have to slow down the curve, then we can implement strategies like family planning, right? What do we mean by family planning? What is family planning? Simple. Family, you have to plan the family. Plan the birth of the kids and a proper gap between two births. So family planning has good impacts both on the population curve and also on the health of the mother and the child, correct? So we understood how it can help the population curve. How it can help the mother and the child? Any idea biologically? Anyone? Hanifa? No idea? Rifat? How can planning a family help the mother and the child's health biologically? Rifat, you're not audible if you're speaking. Atif, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Any idea how it can? We know that we understand it's simple how it can help the population, but how about how it can help the mother and the child?
Not sure, sir.
One thing is, if there is a proper gap between the birth of two kids, the mother's body will get enough time to, because giving birth is a very toll taking process on the mother's body, right? Remember I told you
Yes, sir.
the last class that a developing embryo is like a parasite inside the mother's body, which keeps feeding on the mother for 9 months. And even after the birth, the mother's body produces colostrum to keep feeding that baby for around another 6-7 months, right? So it's a
Yes,
very
sir.
heavy energy taking process for the mother for around 1.5 years. And then you need, some at least couple of more years or 3 for the mother to get well, to come to the same health and physique, correct? Before undergoing another pregnancy. So in areas where education is an issue and people are not educated or not literate, they do not understand this. So if every year or every after first birth, within a year, then the female is again undergoing a pregnancy, it starts deteriorating the female's health over time. Make sense? Because she's not getting the time to rebuild. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That way it can help the mother. And for the baby also, multiple pregnancies within short span of time, you will see that the second and the third child then will not get proper nutrition and development inside the mother's body, because if mother's body is weak, the child which will develop will also be weak. Correct? Simple, no? Make sense? Yes or no? If you understand, please write down these things. And then how can we do it? How can we achieve family planning or control of the population? Second thing is birth control methods. Okay. Birth control methods or contraception. So use of contraception has to be promoted in the society so that the unplanned birth of the child can be controlled in the society. That way, effective family planning can take place. So write down. Family planning helps. About this point first, write down. Family planning helps. Atif, am I audible to you? You join back again.
Yes, sir.
Write down. The family planning helps both the mother and the child, both the mother and the child's health. The family planning helps both the mother and the child's health, and also helps in regulating the population growth curve. Okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Write down next point. Birth control methods for contraception. Birth control methods helps in preventing unplanned birth. Now, why do you think, if I ask you, why do you think population is growing? And it's not steady, it is just growing with time. Howsoever, like we do the planning, we can just slow down the growth curve, we can slow down the rate, but we can never like bring it to a steady form. Why is that? Any idea? Do you know of the concept? Anyone has an idea of the concept of the birth rate and death rate? What is a birth rate?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is a birth rate and what is a death rate, Atif?
Like the amount of births in a period of time is known as birth rate.
Yes, it's rate. So it has to be with time, right? So number of births taking place, let's say in a day or in a month or in a year in any region, any country is the birth rate of that country. And the death rate?
The amount of deaths in a period of time.
Deaths, right? So if I ask you, do you think over time, like let's talk about situation 200 or 300 years ago versus today, what do you think has happened to the death rate? Has it declined or increased? The death rate, has the death rate decreased or increased?
Decrease.
Increased? You think increased? Yes, Hanifa, what do you think?
So they said decreased.
Decreased? What is your final answer, Atif? Increased or decreased? Because you have to justify.
Decreased.
The death rate has decreased. And Hanifa, what do you think? Hanifa is not audible to me. Is she audible to you, Atif?
Decrease.
Decreased. So both of you believe death rate has decreased. Now, can you give me why, the reason why do you think death rate has decreased?
We have the medical things we have advanced in, and so treatments are available for diseases and stuff. But before, the treatments were not available.
Yes. So do I hear that medical advancement is there? Atif, what is your reason?
Yes, sir. Mostly the same reason, because like the health services are now more accessible in India. Like also like the eradication of diseases and like the awareness towards them has increased. Like now we have many vaccines to prevent diseases.
Yes.
Yeah, basically advancement in the medical field. That's it.
Yes. So basically, earlier there were many ways to die. You know. So nowadays we have restricted some of those ways. Like infection no longer kills lots of people, as many people as it used to kill very early, like in 200, 300 years ago. So earlier, when there is any infection, like let's say cholera or a flu or any viral infection that has spread to the village or to a city, it used to wipe, a lot of 40%, 50% of the populations sometimes. Like you must have heard of Spanish flu, which is considered one of the strongest and the most like lethal flu in the history, like modern history, known history. So it almost killed and wiped villages and cities altogether, because earlier we did not have medical advancement to control these diseases. Nowadays we can do that, and we are doing it, right? The world is going through pandemic, and the pandemic has claimed lots of millions of lives, but without the techniques that we have today for treatment, it could have been, maybe 50, 100 times more. Yes or no?
Yes.
And even in case of, if it's not disease or infection, let's say it's an accident or any mishappening, the emergency uh, treatment is also better now. It's better than before to save people, dying people, and in some cases to resuscitate people back. Like you must have heard of CPR. You know CPR, or using defibrillators, Atif?
Yes, sir.
Someone who's biologically, like technically dead, the heartbeat is not working, some accident happened, or because of shocks there's a sudden death. So you can revive that person within first 10 minutes if you can revive the heartbeat and the blood flow. Yes or no? Because all organs do not die at the same time. I think we discussed something like immortality in one class. Remember, Atif? Very early classes.
Yes, sir.
We discussed why humans cannot achieve immortality or what is mortality. So all these advanced techniques have led to the decrease in the death rate. And what has happened to the birth rate? Now, my question is with birth rate. Has it decreased or increased overall?
So asking birth rate, right?
Yes, birth rate.
Yes, sir. It has increased.
Again, the answer will be more or less the same, that we have better techniques earlier. In earlier times, babies, when they were born, after that, two things were very, very high: the maternal mortality rate and the infant mortality rate. Many mothers could not used to survive the delivery, and many babies were not able to survive after birth, right? So it was very common thing back in time for the babies to die after birth because of any infection or any disease that they can get. But nowadays we have, again, we have healthcare which is improved both for the mother and for the baby, so we can assist them for a better parturition, a better delivery, and both maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate has gone down. So let's write down all these things. Birth rate, write down. It's the number of births in a specified region over a fixed time. Number of births in a specific region, a specified region, you have to define the region over a fixed time. Next point, it has increased mostly. There are many countries which are seeing a decline in birth rate, and recently there was an article in like last week only where Japan as a country saw in 2020, like right after 2020, in 2021 and 2022, Japan is seeing a decline in the birth rates, like what is used to be earlier. So it is also declining in some region, which is also not good for that country's that country's demography. Because the problem then you will have is, if birth rate starts declining in some period, then you will not have babies, right? More babies. Then after some point of time, either your population, majority of it will be old people, and other majority will be very young people. And this is what Japan is facing right now. So it's known as the old age home of the world. There are many old people in Japan, and the youth, the active midlife working population is very less in Japan. Now it has multiple reasons. One reason was the involvement and the catastrophe that happened in Japan during the World War. That could be also one reason, and deaths associated with that afterwards. And second is the decline birth rate. So it has to be maintained. A very delicate balance has to be maintained to keep the social balance going. But birth rate over in general in other areas of the world, it has increased mostly over time due to decreased infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate. So this has decreased. That's why the birth rate has increased. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And I done also the maternal mortality rate has decreased. Maternal mortality rate has also decreased. Talking about death rate, write down. It is the number of deaths and when I say number of deaths, it includes both natural and accidental. number of deaths in a specified region over a fixed time. And what has happened to the number of deaths? Death rate has decreased significantly. Over time due to better medical techniques and treatment. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now in this chapter, mostly the most important thing that we have to study about is birth control methods. Now, what do we mean by birth control methods? Questions have come on this only. So there are concepts in this birth control methods that we will study now. So birth control methods, write down. What is birth control first? Define birth control, write down. It is the regulation of of conception. It is the regulation of conception. What do we mean by conception? People, what do we mean by conception?
Fertilization.
Conception is yes, fertilization or conception of pregnancy. You have heard the word conceiving, right? A female conceives. Yes or no? A female cannot conceive or a female can conceive. So that is conception. Is it clear?
Yes.
So write down the regulation of conception by preventive measures. By preventive measures or devices which are known as contraception. Which are known as contraceptions. So contraception is just contrary to conception. So opposite of conception is contraception. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now for this contraception, we talk about contraceptive methods which are given in your NCERT. They can be of two types. So first is temporary method. And the other is permanent method. So as the word suggests, temporary and permanent. What do we mean by temporary and permanent methods?
Temporary will prevent conception only for a short period of time. Permanent will terminate conception for the rest of the person's life.
Life, right? So temporary method and permanent method. So talking about permanent method first, let's talk about, because it's permanent. So how can we permanently avoid conception? There's only one way to do it, right? What can we do?
Surgical method.
Yes, the surgical method. Now, in surgical method, both in male and female reproductive tract that we have studied in the last chapter, we know that there are certain ducts, right?
Yes, sir.
This method is called sterilization method. Sterilization by surgery. We are making the humans sterile. Now there are two ways to do it. One is for in case of males, we can do vasectomy. The word tummy is associated with cutting out something. So vasectomy, what are we cutting here? What is vasectomy?
Cutting the worst.
Yes. So vas deferens carries sperms, right? So write down cutting and tying vas deferens. So it's like that highway, the road or the way through which sperms are actually moving. So if we just remove this way only, then sperms cannot get transferred from the male system to the female system, right? So that's called vasectomy, cutting and tying of vas deferens. The second method is for females, which is known as, what is the equivalent of vas deferens in females? What it is called?
Fallopian tube.
Yes, so we call it tubectomy. Okay. Tubectomy is cutting and tying of fallopian tube. What is the other name for fallopian tube?
Oviduct.
Fallopian tube or oviduct. So this is simple, not much to remember or mark up. This is simple. You are just permanently removing that path through which sperms or ovum can move. Now, one question that comes from this, from the concept in your school exams, is that if we are cutting vas deferens and or fallopian tube and tying it forever, it is irreversible. So, sir, about what is important about both these surgical methods is write down certain points. First thing is that it is irreversible a method. But tell me, what effect will it have on the sexual drive of the male or the female? Will it affect the sexual drive? Sexual drive, we discussed this also. Atif, will it have an effect on the sexual drive of the male or the female?
Not sure, sir.
No, why? You're correct. There will not be any effect on the sexual drive. Why?
Sir, I said I'm not sure.
But what do you think? No effect on sexual drive, because what is important for sexual drive? Is it the sperm or the ovum? It is the hormones, right?
Yes.
Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, right? In males and females. And do hormones also gets transferred through vas deferens or fallopian tube?
No.
No. So they travel through bloods, right? The blood vessels. And we are not cutting blood vessels here. You understand? If you cut, if there is castration instead of vasectomy, like if you remove the testes altogether, or if you remove the ovaries altogether, the primary sexual organs, if they are removed, okay, so removal of testes is called castration, and there is removal of ovaries also. If you do this, then the sexual drive will be affected, yes or no? Because no primary sex hormones will be produced then. Make sense, everyone?
Yes, sir.
And the third thing is, will it prevent sexually transmitted diseases? Will the permanent
Yes.
prevent sexually transmitted diseases? Atif says yes. How, Atif? Sexually transmitted diseases, we'll study about it after this section, but let me just tell you that they are spread through body fluids. So when we are cutting vas deferens and fallopian tube, are we just preventing any body fluid from being released or getting exchanged between male and female?
Yes.
No, we are not. You remember where were the glands present in male system? If I cut the vas deferens, but the glands are present after the vas deferens, right? The bulbourethral, seminal vesicle, and the prostate. All the three glands are present before the urethra, after the vas deferens, and after the ejaculatory duct. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So even if I cut the vas deferens and tie it, sperms cannot come, but semen will still be produced. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So fluid exchange will still happen between males and females. And if any pathogen, virus, or bacteria is present in that body fluid, which can cause infectious disease, that will still get transferred. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
The only thing that will not happen is fertilization, because there is no sperm now. Sperms are all produced in the testes. They come through vas deferens into the urethra, and we are cutting the vas deferens. So they will always be there in the testes, but they will not reach the semen. So the semen will be spermless, but the body fluid will always be there. No, same is the case for females, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. So write down. It does not prevent STDs from spreading. It just prevents pregnancy and fertilization. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, now coming to temporary method. In temporary method, there are again two methods. The first is called the natural method. Write down natural methods, where we are not using any artificial device or something. So in natural method, there are four things. One is called the safe period. Safe period, or also known as the rhythm method. Now in this, remember from last class, we studied about the female menstrual cycle. Okay.
Yes.
So if I ask you which period from day 1 to 28 in that female, because ultimately pregnancy has to happen in female body. So which period is the safest period where you can be sure that no fertilization will happen?
After the 14th day.
After the 14th day is the riskiest period, because on 14th day ovulation happens, and after 14th day 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 ovum is present in the system. So you just need sperm to reach there and fertilize the ovum. So that is the riskiest period. Which is the safe period, where you are sure that there is no ovum? before day 14, no, Atif?
Yes, sir.
And in before day 14 also, just keep 4 days of margin, because if sperm enters on day 11, 12 or 13, then it can survive in the female tract for another 2 days and ovum can reach in that time. So the safest we think is from day 1 to day 6, let's say around these 6 days where the menstrual phase is there, fertilization cannot happen. Yes,
Yes, sir.
because sperms, even if they reach that place, there is no ovum, everything is falling down. And even if, let's say, by any chance there is a fertilization, there will be no implantation because there is no endometrium, right? It has all broken and came out, right? Flown with menses. Yes or no? So
Yes,
that
sir.
period is safest period for uh, sexual intercourse. So one method is, all these are like methods depending on sync of the menstrual cycle. So if sexual intercourse takes place between the safe period, the rhythm period, then there is less chances of fertilization. And then after day, let's say day 24 or day 20, you understand? Because on day 14th ovulation happen, ovum can also survive in the system, or it will be there for like 1 week. After that, if no fertilization happens, then the level of progesterone and estrogen starts declining again. Yes or no?
Yes.
So basically in natural method, what we are trying to do is we are trying to prevent the timing. Sperm and ovum should not be present at the right time in the right place so that they can fertilize each other. So we are preventing their timing. And by this method, we are just relying on the idea that if these are the safe period timings and the others are risky period. So safe period or rhythm method says that before day 6 and after day 24, sexual intercourse has less chances of fertilization. Is it clear? Write down. Safe period is the time period in the menstrual cycle where chances of fertilization is less, very less, before day 6 and after day 24. Is it clear? Shall I go to the second?
Sir, can you wait on?
Can I repeat? Yes.
No, sir, I'm writing.
Can I?
Sir, I'm writing, sir. I asked you to wait 1 minute.
Yes, please. Do you also want me to repeat something, Atif?
No, sir, it's fine.
So you understood, right? They are relying
Yes,
on
sir.
the days where chances of fertilization is less. Let me know when you're done.
Done, sir.
Okay. The next method is abstinence, periodic abstinence. What do we mean by abstinence?
Avoiding.
Yes, absence. So periodic abstinence. So remember, if there are some safe days, there are also risky days, which we discuss from day 10 to day 20, let's say. This is the most riskiest time. So in this period, the sexual intercourse should be avoided. So sexual intercourse or coitus should be avoided from day 10 to around day 17, 18, like that, of the menstrual cycle. Why are we avoiding this period? Because ovulation is expected in this period. Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's called abstinence, another just a natural method. Third is coitus interruptus. Okay. It's also known as withdrawal method. And what do you mean by withdrawal? Withdrawal is stopping something. Is it clear? So in this method, write down the male partner in coitus interruptus, the male partner withdraws the external genitalia, which is penis, withdraws the penis from the female tract, from the vaginal tract, just before ejaculation. Just before ejaculation. To avoid insemination. To avoid insemination. What do we mean by insemination? Transfer of
Yeah.
sperms. Yes. But you were saying something, Atif?
No, sir. I was about to see the answer, but you said it.
Insemination. Third method is clear?
Yes, sir.
And fourth natural method is called lactational amenorrhea. Lactational amenorrhea. Now this means, remember, after birth, after parturition, females undergo intense lactation. They produce lots of milk in the mammary glands. So this is a period, write down, this is the period after parturition where menstrual cycle is absent. Absence of menstrual cycle after parturition. And this is for around 6 months after the birth. So after a baby is born, the female for the another 6 months is just healing from whatever the uterus went through and is not undergoing any menstrual cycle. So if there is no menstrual cycle, there will also not be any ovulation. Yes.
Yes.
So this period of lactational amenorrhea is safe for sexual intercourse without high chances of pregnancy. But again, it is not like exactly 6 months. It depends on body to body, but we are just relying on this knowledge. So you can write down, this method is based on the fact that ovulation is absent during the period of intense lactation. During the period of intense lactation. Post parturition. Is it clear?
Yes.
This is also the time period in which mother feeds the baby. So all the natural methods, you can understand that basically they are relying on some or the other concepts of menstrual cycle, right? But for all the four, there is very high chance of failure. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
For natural methods, there is high chances of failure, which means high chances of pregnancy. Why? Because it is all very subjective. Like the safe period is also subjective, the rhythm method is also subjective. In some females, the bleeding phase is only 3 days, right? So probably on the 6th day, the sperm can just be there and survive somehow. And if ovulation happens early, by any chance, or the second ovary also released because of some issues. Remember, we also discussed that there is a possibility that from both the ovaries, ovulation can happen. Normally it does not happen, but there are chances, right? We are not preventing sperm and ovum from meeting each other deliberately, like through a barrier. We are just relying on the timing. Even abstinence has high chances of failure. Coitus interruptus, the question comes in boards, why is coitus interruptus has high chances of failure? If a male partner withdraws the penis just before ejaculation, then isn't it fair enough to say that no sperm entered? No. Why? Because remember I told you that bulbourethral gland starts secreting the earliest, even after the sexual stimulation, much before ejaculation is happening. These glands are already secreting fluid for lubrication and making the urethra alkaline, etc. Correct? So
Yes, sir.
there is body fluid already being secreted much before ejaculation, and there is a possibility that if not in a large number, there still can be sperms in these body fluids. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Sperms could just be leaking there from the ejaculatory duct because there is no gate, right? It's not like a dam where the gates are closed, sperms cannot come. So it has also a high chance of failure. Lactational amenorrhea, it's not like 6 months counted after the parturition. It depends. So all these methods have high chance of failure is the first point. And what do you think? Can natural methods prevent STD? Can they prevent sexually transmitted diseases? No, not at all, right? So do not prevent STDs from spreading. Okay, everyone, both these things are clear.
Yes.
Yes. Now the second thing, again in the temporary method, is artificial method. Artificial methods. Now in artificial methods, they are also of multiple types. First one is barrier method. Now the whole concept of this method is to put a barrier between sperms and the ovum. Okay. And this barrier method, there are, first thing is the use of a condom, like they are called contraceptions, or a femidom. Femidom is nothing but a female condom. And condoms are latex sheath. They are rubber or latex sheaths, very thin rubber or latex sheaths that act as a barrier between the ovum and the sperm. So write down. In barrier methods, in artificial barrier methods, okay, what is the one thing about also one thing that is asked about the natural method is it has no side effect, right? Because no drug or nothing is involved. You understand?
Yes.
So it has no side effect, because anything that can cause side effect is not present here. It is just based on timing, but very high chance of failure. Artificial methods, write down. In artificial barrier methods, ovum and sperms are prevented from physically interacting with each other. They are prevented from physically interacting with each other. The first one is a condom or femidom, which is, write down, which is a thin latex sheath, used to cover the external genitalia. Okay. And about them, the most important thing that you have to know is they are completely avoiding any kind of interaction between the male and the female body fluid, right? They're like a full
Yes, sir.
barrier. So condoms or femidom are the only contraceptions methods which can prevent STD. They prevent STDs. Remember, no other method, whether it is artificial or natural or permanent or temporary, apart from condoms and femidoms, no other method can prevent STD. Okay, this is the important thing that you have to know. Apart from this, there are other barrier methods which are known as cervical cap or cervix cap. As the name suggests, it's like a cap or a barrier which is placed at the beginning of the cervix. Remember, cervix is that narrow region from where uterus starts in the female.
Yes, sir.
Vaginal tract, then there is the cervix, which is the gateway to the uterus. And if you place a cap at the cervix, you are just not allowing the sperms to pass through that region, to go into the uterus and then to go towards the fallopian tube and fertilize. So here, fertilization will be prevented, but still the semen and the sperm is there in the female tract, right? Till the vagina. So STDs can still spread, correct?
Yes.
Apart from cervix cap, there are things like diaphragm. Diaphragm is again, it's not like a cap, it's like a membrane, again covering the entry of the sperm into the uterus. So both cervix cap and diaphragm are barrier methods, but do not prevent STD. Make sense? Yes, everyone, makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so apart from barrier methods like natural methods, artificial methods, which includes barrier methods, another way is through IUDs. You know what are IUDs? As the name suggests, they are called intrauterine devices. Okay. Intrauterine devices. Most of the IUDs are spermicidal in nature. What do we mean by spermicidal? side, female infanticide, female feticide, homicide, suicide. So sidal means to kill, right? Any form of killing is associated with sidal word. So spermicidal means killing of what? Yes. So write down IUDs. Now I will, these IUDs are many types. In NCERT it's given it as a paragraph. So let's write it as types. So the first type of IUD is non-medicated IUD. Non-medicated IUDs. Now, as the term suggests, non-medicated, which means they do not have any medication in it, any chemical which can kill, but they are still effective. And one example of this is lips loop. Remember the example, that's all. If the question comes, it comes on examples. What is an example of non-medicated IUDs among the following? So lips loop is a non-medicated IUD. And the second class is copper releasing IUD. Now, what does the release of copper do? Copper releases, copper means the ion of the copper. Now, is it a cation or an anion? Tell me. Cation, yes. So when cation is released in the presence of copper as a cation, so these intrauterine devices, as the name suggests, they are put inside. They are inserted inside the uterus and placed in a proper orientation where they show their effect. Now for IUDs, just note down one thing, that a medical supervision is important. IUDs are inserted by medical professionals, doctor or a nurse. You need a supervision, a medical supervision. For IUDs. Till the time IUDs will be there inside the body, they will be effective. And if a female wants to plan a child, then she can just get removed these IUDs. But for barrier methods, whether it's condom, femidom, cervix cap, or diaphragm, supervision, like a medical supervision, is not necessary. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So copper mediating IUDs are the most famous of the IUDs, which is called copper T, CUT, copper T, or copper 7, CU7, and multi-load 375. These three are the most common names that are asked. Copper T, copper 7, and multi-load 375 are copper releasing IUDs. Now, what does copper does? These cations, they hamper the motility and viability of the sperms and kills them, makes them die, make the environment hostile. It is a very cation rich environment. Okay, everyone? Is it clear?
Yes.
And the third kind is hormone releasing. Hormone releasing IUDs. Clearly, how they are working is they are secreting some hormones. They are secreting some hormones that increase. Did you write for copper releasing? They suppress the motility and viability of the sperms.
Yes.
And write down for hormone releasing IUDs. They increase phagocytosis. They increase phagocytosis. What is phagocytosis of sperms? White blood cells eat any foreign particle that enters our body, right? There are macrophages and white blood cells, our immune cells. They actively keep hunting for any pathogen or any foreign particle and engulf it. That's called phagocytosis, right? The word phagy or phagy is associated with eating. Remember coprophagy? Yes or no? Can I repeat? The word phagy is for eating, eating up. So phagocytosis means eating up of the cell, of the sperm. So IUDs increase the phagocytosis of sperms, the hormone releasing IUDs. The hormone releasing IUDs also makes the uterus unsuitable for implantation. The hormone releasing IUDs also make the uterus unsuitable for implantation. There are two examples of it. LNG20 is asked and progestasert. Progestasert. As the name suggests, it has which hormone it is secreting? The progesterone derivative, right? Progestasert. So just remember these examples of 3 types of IUDs. And IUDs are known as the ideal contraceptives for family planning. Because they are long lasting and you can just insert, you get inserted an IUD depending on for what time it can work, and then you can delay the pregnancy and space between children easily, between the children easily. Is it clear? So this is the ideal contraceptive for family planning, and it has a very, like, it does not have a failure. Like, we will not say it does not, but it's highly unlikely. These contraceptives do not fail. IUDs are clear. It is also the most widely accepted method of contraception. Okay, by females. IUDs can only work for female. It is clear, right? Intrauterine. Written, everyone? Let's go to one more type. After IUDs, there are oral contraceptive methods. Oral contraceptives. And by oral contraceptives, these are like pills or tablets that can be taken by the female orally. Okay, they are also known as emergency contraceptives. Because they can be implemented after the sexual intercourse. They are the only contraceptive methods that can be implemented after the act of unprotected sexual intercourse. Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, here in oral contraceptives, if it is an emergency contraceptive, then it has to be taken before before 48 to 72 hours. Before 48 to 72 hours.
Sir, before the intercourse?
No, before 48 to 72 hours after the intercourse. This is the only method that can be used as emergency. So if a couple could not plan or do not also have a contraceptive in place, but they still, if they underwent unprotected sexual intercourse, it's not like they cannot do anything now. Females can still take oral contraceptive, which is an emergency contraceptive, before the 48 to 72 hours after the sexual intercourse. Is it clear? So this is basically to not allow implantation to happen. It kills the zygote. Understand? Implantation does not happen. But if it is not, if you are not using it as an emergency contraceptive, and if a female wants to use this as a normal mode of contraceptive, then in that case, pills are taken daily for a period of 21 days. 21 days after the menstrual cycle begins. Sorry, 21 days, around 5 to 6 days after the menstrual cycle begins. Now, can you tell, the total menstrual cycle is of 28 days, right? And you have to take it for 21 days after 5 or 6 days after. Because in the initial 5 or 6 days, anyways, there cannot be a fertilization, correct? Everything is bleeding
Yes,
out,
sir.
right? But after that, you need to keep taking a pill. Now, just to tell you, in all these 21 days, you are not taking pill which contains, the female is not taking a pill which contains a chemical. It is just that one pill can work for around 2 to 3 days, but it is a habit. You have to take a pill every day. So those, if you see these tablets, they come with a very, very specific sign. So there'll be 1 to 21 marked. Okay, you understand? Like this, and there will be a pill in front of every marking. Do you understand? So that the female does not forgets to take a pill. But let's say this pill will have the chemical, then 2 and 3 will not have the chemical, and 4 will have the chemical. You understand? But this is just a habit, so that you take it daily, you do not miss it. Because if you tell a female to take a pill and then take after 2 or 3 days, sometimes she will take after 2 days, sometimes she may forget and take after 4 days, and in between, if she had a sexual intercourse with her partner, she can get pregnant, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you just put it in a series from day 1 to like 21, starting from the 5th or the 6th day, then the chances of pregnancy is not there, and it works as a contraceptive. Do you understand? Is it clear?
Yes.
Now these pills basically are combination of progesterone and estrogen. Combination of progesterone and estrogen. If both are present together, it is called a combination pill. Okay, or combined pill. But if only progesterone is present, it is called a mini pill. Not used much now. And the mini pills which used to come, they used to only have progesterone, the synthetic version of it, which is called progestin. It is a synthetic progesterone. Is it clear, everyone? Yes or no? Is it clear?
Yes.
Now, in this, there is a question that comes for a very recently developed contraceptive pill. So, normally they used to be taken for a period of 21 days, starting from the 5th day, and they used to come like this. But now, more effective pills are made over time, and one such example is Saheli. It's the brand name of this contraception by government of India. Saheli means a female's friend, right? And this is once a week pill. Once a week pill. You take it once a week, and it is non-steroidal. It does not have steroids. It's a non-steroidal pill. This has been asked in few exams, so you should know it. And it is very advanced, so it has very high contraceptive value. So, oral contraceptives can also be used as an emergency contraceptive. It can also be used as a daily contraceptive pill. And Saheli is also once a week contraceptive pill, right? Basically, all of them have progesterone and estrogen combinations. If both are present, it's called a combined pill. If only progesterone is present, it's called a mini pill. Everything is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I think this is all about contraception. We have covered all. Yes. And we are only left with sexually transmitted diseases and infertility in this chapter. The two topics that we will finish in the next class. Okay, in the next class on Wednesday, you will have your oral exam. Okay. Might be a oral or a written, but there is an exam in the next class. Is it clear? Atif, Hanifa, Hiba, and Rifat? Whatever is
Yes, sir.
now, you will be quizzed on that basis. And about oral pills, quickly write down what is the function. How do they function? Mode of function. Mode of function, and then we will end the class. Write down. The first thing they do is inhibition of ovulation. They inhibit ovulation. If there will be no ovulation, there will be no pregnancy. Second thing, they inhibit the secretory action of oviduct. Now, the secretory action of oviduct is important for health of the ovum and fertilization. So they inhibit secretory action of oviduct. And they also make the cervix hostile for sperms. So that sperm starts getting killed chemically, okay? They make it chemically hostile. The fourth way is they also modify the endometrium. They make the endometrium unable to allow implantation. So they are almost covering every aspect, right? So they are a good contraceptive method. Yes or no? You understand? And now with recent advancements, apart from these pills, quickly I'll tell you about one more thing in the end, which is just they are called hormonal implants. They are the same hormones, progesterone and estrogen, but they come as not as pills, but they come as hormonal implants or hormonal injections. Basically, in this mode, progesterone and estrogen is implanted below the skin. A small thing which contains the combination of this chemical is implanted under the skin, and they keep secreting these chemicals into the blood slowly over a very long period of time. So these are long acting and implanted under the skin, or I will say subdermally. Subdermally means under the skin. Okay. Is it clear? And the name that you
Yes, sir.
remember in this is just one is important. It's levonorgestrel. Gestrel. Just remember this name be fast. So this is for implants. It is just a implant version or injection version of the pills. That's all. Okay. And it is also a combination of progesterone and estrogen. Okay, clear everyone?
Yes.
So this is all about the birth control methods, and nothing more than that will be asked either in your school exam or in entrances. And probably in the next class we'll finish this chapter. There are 2 more methods. It's a short chapter and most of the things are facts that you have to remember. Some concepts which are there is on the basis of it is in infertility and sexually transmitted diseases part, which we will do in the next class. So any doubt, Atif, Hanifa, Hiba, or Rifat? Do you have any doubts?
Sir.
Okay, then see you in the next class, everyone. Stay blessed. Take care. Good night. Keep revising, okay? Just go through everything that you have written in today's class and keep it in your head as a story. So the things which are in NCERT, you will find all of this in NCERT. Probably go and read it, but in a paragraph wise manner. So I have tried to put it in points here in a series that can help. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.